Hello. I've been out the last couple weeks, actually last couple months traveling. I'm doing a lot of traveling. Anyway, I'll try to get back to doing a couple of videos a week. And I'm going to start with this doozy. So here we go. I finally got around to watching the movie The Zone of Interest. This is the movie written and directed by Jonathan Glazer, and the movie that Jonathan Glazer won an Academy Award for Best International Feature Film. I'm going to start this video from the time his name was called to actually winning the Oscar. Jonathan couldn't have just walked on stage with a little smirk, knowing that he just stole an Oscar and now he fucked over whoever invested more than $5 in his horrific film. Nope, he had to open his trap to either the 8 people that saw this movie or the Hollywood elite who clap and cheer about anything their righteous colleagues always spew, especially if they feel it's about an underdog and facts be damned. Anyway, in his speech, he says, quote, "Right now, we stand here as men who refute Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people, whether the victims of October the 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack on Gaza, all the victims of this dehumanization. How do we resist?" End quote. First off, Jonathan, fuck you. Your fellow Jews are at war right now, in a war they didn't start, and you want to use our religion to downgrade your own people? You have a platform from a horrible movie, and instead of thanking all the people you con in to support your garbage film, no. You felt it was your time to bash your fellow Jews in a scenario that you know nothing about. You are pathetic, and someone who has obviously caught the, quote, Hollywood Stockholm Syndrome, and you should be ashamed. You're a Jewish man. Do you think between your comments at the Oscars and writing and directing an absolutely ridiculous picture trying to humanize Rudolf Huss and his family? I have to ask, do you think your parents, your grandparents, and other family members are proud? How about your fellow Jews you grew up with? You think they're proud of this latest accomplishment from you? Who the fuck and why the fuck would anyone on earth make a film trying to humanize an SS Waffen lieutenant colonel and long-term commandant of Auschwitz? I found a few blurbs on why this dumbass made this film, but who knows. Quote, Glazer opted to tell the story of the Husses rather than characters they inspire, and conducted extensive research into the family as he sought to make a film that demystifies the perpetrators of the Holocaust as mythologically evil. What? Why? Why would anyone ever try to demystify a Nazi, let alone someone as psychotic and fucked up as Huss? Anyway, here's where I just get pissed off. They filmed this dumbass movie on sacred ground, Auschwitz. A film about a psychotic serial killer in the Holocaust who was a leader and under his watch helped to kill hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of Jews. Mr. Glazer wants the world to believe that outside of all that going on, Rudolph was just a regular guy. That's this fucking movie. Oh, here's Rudolph at the dinner table this evening. Oh, I had such a stressful day. One of the ovens went down, but I figured out a way to stagger the other ones until we got it fixed. I was only able to gas and kill around 8,000 Jews today, but we'll be back up tomorrow. Can you pass me the peas? Great premise, Jonathan. How's the movie doing? To date, it has grossed less than $9 million combined in the U.S. and Canada. Now, money doesn't define a movie, but this rag received 5 Oscar nominations. 5! My gosh. You should read the critics' reviews. The Rotten Tomatoes and the Metacritic scores is, to me, it's just truly shocking, because this movie just flat out sucked. The movie is about Rudolf Hess, his family. Somehow Jonathan Glazer puts these psychopaths on screen as Ward and June Cleaver. Now, before I go over the specifics of the movie, I think we need to know a bit more about the main character of this sci-fi movie. Rudolf Huss was an SS officer and commandant of Auschwitz. And when he had brief time away from Auschwitz, he moseyed over to Ravensbrück concentration camp to be the coordinator of killing operation by gassing. No biggie, Jonathan, right? Can you tell us what flowers Rudolph liked to plant in his garden when he got home from such a stressful day? Anyway, back to the misunderstood Huss. He tested and implemented means to accelerate Hitler's order to systematically exterminate the Jewish population of Nazi-occupied Europe, known as the Final Solution. On the initiative of one of his subordinates, Karl Fritsch, Huss introduced the pesticides Zyklon B to be used in gas chambers, where more than 1 million people were killed. Yay! But Jonathan Glazer, what is Rudolph's favorite suit? On April 1st, 1934, Huss joined the SS on Himmler's effective call to action, and in the same year moved to the Death Heads units. Huss was assigned to the Dachau concentration camp in December 1934, where he held the post of block leader. In 1938, Huss was promoted to SS captain and was made adjunct to Hermann Baranowski in the Sachsenhausen concentration camp. There, he led the firing squad that, on Himmler's orders, on September 15, 1939, killed August Dickmann, a Jehovah's Witness, who was the first conscientious objector to be executed after the start of the war. Huss fired the finishing shot from his pistol. He joined the Waffen SS. If you know anything about the Waffen SS, these guys are just fucking nut jobs. In 1939, after the invasion of Poland, Huss excelled in that capacity and was recommended by his superiors for further responsibility and promotion. On January 18, 1940, as the head of the protective custody camp at Sachsenhausen, Huss ordered all prisoners not assigned to work details to stand outside in frigid condition reaching minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Most of the inmates had no coats or gloves. When block elders dragged some of the frozen inmates to the infirmary, Huss ordered the infirmary doors to be closed. During the day, 78 inmates died. Another 67 died that night by fucking freezing to death. Jonathan's like, no biggie. I want this guy humanized. So I really would like to know, what type of toothpaste did Huss use before he went to bed that night? Jonathan, any idea? Rudolph spent some time in western Poland, and from there he sent word back to Nazi command about setting up a concentration camp there, which later was called Auschwitz. He set up an elaborate camp of different camps, blocks, barracks, and so on. Jonathan, I know this was rather hard on him as he was figuring out how to kill Jews by the tens of thousands, but he really missed being home, holding his children and wiggling their noses with such deep smiles. It's understandable when Huss had other mundane things to deal with, like Auschwitz. Auschwitz 1, the original camp was Block 11. And the courtyard between Blocks 10 and 11, there was a high stone wall and massive wooden gates shielded Nazi brutality from observers. Condemned prisoners were led from Block 11, naked and bound to the death wall at the back of the courtyard. A member of the political department then shot the prisoner in the back of the head using a small caliber pistol to minimize noise. Probably a great suggestion from Huss. We'd have to ask Jonathan on this one. As punishment, Huss also employed standing cells in Block 11. On multiple occasions, he condemned 10 random prisoners to death by starvation in a Block 11 cell in retaliation for escape of one inmate. In 1941, Hess unfortunately had to leave his family at Auschwitz to go to Berlin and receive instructions directly from Himmler regarding the final solution. Jonathan, this would have been a great scene showing the torment on which of Hess's car he had to drive to Berlin in. Plus, there's a pretty good chance that Huss lost an hour or two of sleep so he could get back to be with his family. And because of Huss, and he's credited for it, Auschwitz became the most effective concentration camp for murder. How proud his wife and friends were of Rudolph. Here's Rudolph, so nonchalant, so cavalier, discussing death in a way only someone like Jonathan Glazer could be proud of. Quote, later, 4 large gas chambers and crematoria were constructed in Birkenau to make the killing process more efficient and to handle the sheer volume of victims. Technically, it wasn't so hard. It would not have been hard to exterminate even a greater number. The killing itself took the least time. You could dispose of 2,000 heads in half an hour, but it was the burning that took all the time. The killing was easy. You didn't even need guards to drive them into the chambers. They just went in expecting to take showers, and instead of water, we turned on poison gas. The whole thing went very quickly. End quote. Yeah, that's from the mouth of Huss. Now, I didn't see this topic being covered in the movie. Let's see. Maybe I missed this part. Quote, 1942. Huss had a sexual relationship with an Austrian communist political prisoner at Auschwitz, Eleanor Hodes. She became pregnant and was imprisoned in a standing-only arrest cell. Released from the cell, she had an abortion in a camp hospital in 1943, and, according to her later testimony, she barely evaded being selected to be killed. These events may have led to Hess's recall from the Auschwitz command in 1943. End quote. Jonathan, I think you dropped the ball on this one, as you could have made a couple different scenes about how their love of his wife could overcome all obstacles. I'm sure Jonathan did the research and found out the affair never happened. I could go on and on and on, obviously, but I will toss one more out there from Rudolph's return to Auschwitz. I'm sure in Jonathan's next movie, he'll highlight that time in Huss's life when he was away, and maybe Jonathan can introduce us to Huss's barber, or where he buys his schnitzel, or, I don't know, maybe shooting the shit with the manager at the local store he buys cigarettes from. Anyway, here's the one more. On May 8, 1944, Huss returned to Auschwitz to supervise Operation Huss, in which 430,000 Hungarian Jews were transported to the camp and killed in 56 days. Even Huss's expanded facility could not handle the huge number of victims' corpses, and the camp staff were obliged to dispose of thousands of bodies by burning them in open pits. In May and June alone, almost 10,000 Jews were being gassed per day. Because the number of people exceeded the capacity of the gas chambers in crematoria, mass pit executions were established. Jews were forced to undress, then led to a hidden fire pit by Sonderkommandos, where they were shot by the SS, then thrown into the flames. Now that we have some insight about this movie, let's review. I never ever thought I would see a movie with Rudolf Hess and his wife having pillow talk. So I assumed it had to be a comedy. I watch pretty much any movie that relates to World War II, and when I saw the picture of this movie and read the brief description, I started watching. I did not know this was the movie from Glazer until a few minutes in, and then I Googled it. Now, I took some notes, and I'm just going to read them out loud, verbatim. These are the notes I took as I watched the movie. These are my comments during it, so I won't comment on it. This is from me. Quote, about 5 to 10 minutes into the movie, I thought for sure this was a Mel Gibson movie. And since I no longer watch anything he's on or directs, I was about to turn it off, but I must admit I wanted to see where this was going. That's when I Googled it. Anyways, so far, most of the scenes are ridiculously too long. Even the opening stayed black for minutes. So here we are. The Hesses are out with their family, casually swimming in a lake like any other wholesome and carefree family looking to cool off in midsummer. Oh, and the panic that ensues when Hess, again, taking a couple of his kids out on a canoe, notices bones and ash in the water. Man, I hope he and his kids are okay, right? What a scene, Jonathan. You've got the kids washing ash out of their eyes while crying. The maids changing all the sheets. Oh, the horror. I'm at 1 hour and 2:32 mark, and this Glazer documentary is fucking boring and still maintains its ridiculousness. Do we need a 20-minute view of Hess's garden with his in-law? Who wrote this fucking movie? Yes, Jonathan, we get it. Trying to show the mundane with some Auschwitz buildings in view, gunshots periodically going off. Fail. Who put their money up for this trash? Who are the executive producers? Which studio backed this shit? Are you actually going for sympathy with a cunt being so distraught about moving? This is the dumbest attempt at, I guess, a non-fiction movie I have ever seen. And if it's based on sarcasm, it makes it even worse. Are you fucking kidding me? With overwhelming sadness of him moving away temporarily? This has got to be a satire. The grandmother in bewilderment at how the flames from the gas chambers are keeping her up with, quote, what could be going on, end quote, in there. And who the fuck greenlights a movie about Huss, whatever, and makes it PG-13? He only commanded the murders of hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people. And my gosh, what was up this ridiculous black and white cartoonish image? You should have just gone back to another 3 minutes of a black screen. Nope, there was no point to it. It wasn't some nouveau Hollywood intellect that you guys seem to jerk yourselves off to. It was fucking pointless. Jerk that. Hess, playing with a dog all lovingly, as he's going to join up with all the heads of the top concentration camps. Again, just beautiful timing by the director of this shit show. The Wizard of Oz was more believable than this crap. It's been a long time since I've seen decent Nazi propaganda, but I'm not sure I've seen a movie on it. Hess getting a physical. Oy vey. So you directed this garbage, which covers what time frame, and not one order from Hess to kill anyone at Auschwitz. Not one. End quote. Those are my quotes from the movie. Here's my movie review. In conclusion, I would say Jonathan Glazer is a demented, psychotic, moronic, self-indulgent fucktard. What's next, asshole? A movie about Stalin and his family vacationing in Sochi? Maybe the ins and outs of Genghis Khan's trials and tribulations of fatherhood. This movie is disgusting on so many levels, but even if you set all that aside, the movie just sucked. Well, that's my review, and hopefully the next Jonathan makes it about Pol Pot, showing his children how to mow their yard properly. Rudolf Hess, you made a fucking movie about Rudolf Hess. Like he was the inspiration to having Father's Day. One of the sickest, murdering assholes on the planet over the last 200 years, and you give him a conscience, or showed him looking into his personal silver ball and sees the foreshadowing of the Nazis' deeds. Give me a fucking break. Jonathan Glazer, you can go. Thank you.